Hi everyone, welcome to English Achieve. Today's video is going to open your eyes to something most people never notice in their entire life. Have you ever noticed? Sometimes it's not your hard work that holds you back. It's the people, the energy, and the environment around you. You can be focused. You can be disciplined. You can be motivated. But if your surroundings are wrong, slowly, silently, they will pull you down without you even realizing it. Today's message is simple, but powerful. Be careful of your surroundings because they shape your future more than you think. Part 1. Your environment is stronger than your willpower. Many people believe that success depends only on willpower, motivation, or personal strength. They think, if I try harder, I will succeed. But the truth is deeper and more practical than that. Willpower is important, but it is not permanent. It comes and goes. Some days you feel strong, focused, and ready to work. Other days you feel tired, distracted, or emotionally low. This is the natural behavior of the human mind. Willpower is like a battery. It gets used, and it needs time to recharge. That is why relying only on willpower is not enough to build a successful life. On the other hand, your environment is always active. It does not take rest. It keeps influencing you every moment of your day. If your environment is full of distractions, your attention will constantly break. If your environment is filled with negative conversations, your thinking will slowly become negative. If your environment is surrounded by lazy habits and wasted time, your mind will naturally start accepting laziness as normal. This process is not sudden. It is silent and slow. You don't even realize it is happening until your habits, focus, and discipline begin to change. This is the most dangerous part of environment influence. It does not force you. It slowly shapes you. Even strong people, with big dreams and powerful motivation, lose focus when they stay in the wrong environment for too long. A focused person sitting in a distracted place will slowly become distracted. A motivated person surrounded by negative people will slowly start doubting their own dreams. It is not because they are weak, but because human beings naturally adapt to their surroundings. That is why environment is stronger than willpower. Willpower tries to fight against surroundings, but surroundings keep influencing every second. You can try to stay disciplined, but if your phone is full of distractions, your friends are wasting time, and your daily routine is unstructured, your focus will always be under pressure. You are constantly fighting against your own environment, and that fight becomes exhausting over time. Real growth starts when you understand this simple truth. Changing your mindset is not enough if you do not change your surroundings. You can think positively, but if everything around you is negative, your thinking will slowly weaken. You can try to stay focused, but if your environment is full of noise, entertainment, and distractions, your focus will always be tested. That is why successful people do not only work on their mindset, they carefully design their environment. They choose who they spend time with. They control what they consume. They remove distractions instead of resisting them every day. Because they understand a powerful secret, you don't rise to your highest willpower. You fall or rise to your environment. So if you truly want to grow, don't just ask yourself how strong your willpower is. Ask yourself what kind of environment you are living in. Because in the long run, your environment will always shape your behavior more than your motivation ever will. Part 2. Energy is contagious. Energy spreads without words, and this is one of the most powerful but unnoticed forces in human life. You don't always need someone to speak to feel their influence. Sometimes just sitting near a person is enough to change your mood, your thoughts, and even your motivation. If you sit with negative people who always complain about life, always see problems instead of solutions, and always talk about failure, you will slowly start feeling the same energy inside you. At first, you may resist it. You may think, I am not like them, I am different. But over time, their energy starts entering your mind without permission. You begin to notice small changes in your thinking. You start complaining more. You start seeing fewer possibilities. You start doubting things you once believed in. On the other hand, if you stay around focused and disciplined people, your energy begins to rise naturally. You don't need motivation speeches or pressure. Just being around people who are working, planning, improving, and growing makes you feel more alive and alert. You start thinking, maybe I should also do something meaningful today. This is not magic. This is influence. Human beings are naturally shaped by the environment they spend time in. Energy is not something you only feel inside yourself. It is something you absorb from others. The problem is that most people don't notice this process immediately. It does not happen in one day. It happens slowly, almost invisibly. You will not wake up one morning and suddenly become negative or distracted. Instead, it happens through small changes. One conversation, one habit, one repeated pattern at a time. Over weeks and months, these small influences build your mental state. That is why many people do not understand how they lost their focus or motivation. They think it happened suddenly, but in reality, it was the result of long-term exposure to the wrong energy. This is why protecting your space is not optional. It is necessary. Your space is not only physical, it is also emotional and mental. It includes the people you talk to, the content you consume, the conversations you listen to, and even the thoughts you allow to stay in your mind. If your space is filled with chaos, negativity, and distraction, your mind will reflect the same chaos. But if your space is clean, focused, and supportive of growth, your mind will naturally become stronger and more stable. Protecting your energy does not mean avoiding all people or living in isolation. It means being selective. It means understanding that not every environment deserves your presence, and not every conversation deserves your attention. Some energy builds you, and some energy breaks you. You must learn to recognize the difference. In life, your energy is your direction. If your energy is low, your actions become weak. If your energy is strong, your decisions become powerful. That is why successful people are very careful about where they spend their time. They understand that energy is not just emotional, it is practical. It affects productivity, focus, confidence, and long-term success. So you must ask yourself regularly, what kind of energy am I allowing into my life? Because whatever you allow consistently will slowly become your reality. Protect your space, protect your focus, and protect your energy. Because once it is damaged, everything else becomes harder to build. Part 3. Not everyone around you wants to see you grow. One of the hardest truths in life is that not everyone around you wants to see you grow. Some people are comfortable with your old version. They are used to the way you used to think, speak, and behave. They are comfortable when you are predictable, when you are not changing too much, and when you are not stepping beyond their level of expectation. The moment you start improving yourself, something changes in your relationship with them. You begin to grow, but they begin to feel uncomfortable. At first, this discomfort may not be obvious. They may smile, talk normally, and act like everything is fine. But slowly, their behavior starts changing in small ways. When you talk about your goals, they may not take you seriously. When you try to improve your habits, they may joke about it. When you start focusing on your future, they may try to pull you back into old conversations, old habits, or old distractions. They may say things like, "You have changed," not as a compliment, but as a criticism. This is where many people make a mistake. Instead of continuing their growth, they start shrinking themselves just to maintain comfort in relationships. They stop talking about their goals. They reduce their effort. They hide their progress. They become smaller, not because they want to, but because they want to avoid making others uncomfortable. But this is dangerous. Because every time you reduce your growth to fit someone else's comfort, you are moving away from your true potential. Not everyone will support your transformation. Some people are only comfortable with the version of you that requires no effort from them. They are fine when you are not challenging them, not inspiring them, and not changing the dynamic between you. But growth naturally changes relationships. When you improve, you start thinking differently. You start behaving differently. You start prioritizing different things. And not everyone will understand that change. You must learn to accept this reality without guilt. It does not mean those people are bad. It simply means they are not aligned with your growth journey. Every person has their own level of awareness, their own mindset, and their own comfort zone. But your life cannot stay limited just to maintain comfort in others. True growth sometimes feels lonely. Because when you change, your environment does not always change with you. Some people will walk with you, and some will stay behind. That is natural. The important thing is not to stop your progress just to keep everyone comfortable. Never reduce your growth to match someone else's comfort. Your life is not meant to stay small for the sake of approval. You are allowed to grow, improve, and evolve, even if it makes others uncomfortable. Because at the end of the day, your future depends on your growth, not on their comfort. Part 4. The silent influence of your daily habits. Your environment is not only the people around you or the place you live in, it is also your daily habits, and this is where many people fail to understand how their life is slowly being shaped. What you watch every day, what you listen to every day, and what you repeat in your routine every single day, these things are silently building your future. You may not notice it immediately, but every small action you repeat becomes a part of your identity. If your daily routine is full of distractions, entertainment without limits, and meaningless consumption of content, then your mind slowly loses clarity. And when your mind loses clarity, your future starts to feel confusing. Many people think that big success requires big actions, but the truth is, success is mostly built in small daily moments. What you do when no one is watching is what decides your direction in life. If you spend hours every day scrolling without purpose, watching random content, or listening to negative conversations, your brain starts adapting to that pattern. Slowly, focus becomes harder, discipline becomes weaker, and meaningful work feels uncomfortable. Not because you are incapable, but because your habits are not aligned with your goals. On the other hand, if your daily habits are strong and intentional, your life starts moving in a clear direction. Even small actions like reading something valuable, listening to something inspiring, or working consistently for a short period every day can completely change your mindset over time. These habits may look small in the beginning, but they build something very powerful inside you: discipline. And discipline is what separates a confused life from a successful one. The problem is that habits are silent. They don't make noise. They don't warn you when they are changing you. You don't suddenly wake up and realize that your life has become distracted. It happens slowly, through repetition. 1 hour of distraction becomes 2 hours. 1 day of laziness becomes a habit. One small excuse becomes a pattern. And over time, your entire lifestyle starts reflecting your habits. That is why you must become aware of what you are repeating every day. Because repetition creates direction. If you repeat distraction, you move toward confusion. If you repeat discipline, you move toward clarity. If you repeat negativity, you become mentally weak. If you repeat learning and growth, you become mentally strong. Your habits are not just actions, they are instructions that your brain follows. Success begins with small daily discipline, not sudden transformation. You don't need to change your entire life in 1 day. You only need to change what you repeat daily. Because what you repeat daily will eventually become your reality. And once something becomes a habit, it becomes your default behavior. That means you will start doing it without thinking. So the real question is not what you want to do someday, but what you are doing every day. Because your daily habits are silently writing your future. And if you are not careful, you may end up living a life you never planned, simply because you were not aware of what you were repeating. Part 5. Protect your mind like a treasure. Your mind is one of the most powerful parts of your life, but it is also one of the most sensitive. It absorbs everything: what you see, what you hear, what you read, and even what you think about repeatedly. Most people do not realize how easily their mind is influenced. They believe they are in full control of their thoughts, but in reality, their thoughts are often shaped by external input. This is why protecting your mind is not optional. It is necessary if you want a stable and successful life. Every piece of information you consume has an impact on your thinking. Negative input leads to negative thinking. If you constantly expose yourself to negativity, complaints, fear-based content, toxic conversations, or hopeless ideas, your mind starts adopting the same pattern. You begin to see problems everywhere. You begin to doubt yourself more. You start expecting failure instead of success. This is not because life is becoming worse, but because your thinking is being trained in a negative direction. On the other hand, positive and constructive input creates powerful thinking. When you consume meaningful content, learn new ideas, or surround yourself with growth-focused thoughts, your mind becomes stronger and more confident. You start seeing solutions instead of problems. You start believing in possibilities instead of limitations. This shift does not happen overnight, but it happens gradually through consistent input. That is why you must be selective about what enters your mind. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every conversation deserves your energy. Not every piece of content deserves your time. In today's world, attention is constantly being pulled in many directions. If you are not careful, your mind will be filled with unnecessary noise, and that noise will slowly reduce your clarity. Protecting your mind means setting boundaries. It means choosing what you allow into your mental space. It means understanding that your attention is valuable, and you should not waste it on things that do not help you grow. When you protect your mind, you protect your future. Because your thoughts eventually shape your actions, and your actions shape your life. Think of your mind like a treasure. You would not leave a treasure exposed in an unsafe place. You would protect it, guard it, and handle it carefully. Your mind deserves the same protection. Because once your thinking becomes polluted with negativity or distraction, it becomes harder to focus, harder to grow, and harder to move forward. So be mindful of what you allow into your mental space. Be intentional with your attention. And remember that your life will always move in the direction of your thoughts. If you protect your mind, you protect your future. Part 6. Learn to walk alone when necessary. Sometimes, growth in life requires distance. Not distance from the world completely, but distance from certain people, certain environments, and certain habits that no longer support who you are becoming. This is one of the most difficult lessons to accept. Because human beings naturally want connection. We want to belong. We want to be understood. We want to stay close to the people we are familiar with. But not every familiar space is good for your future. And not every comfortable relationship supports your growth. There will be moments in life when you start feeling different from the people around you. You start thinking about your goals more seriously. You start valuing time more deeply. You start becoming aware of your habits, your mindset, and your direction in life. But the people around you may not be in the same mindset. They may still be focused on comfort, distraction, or short-term pleasure. And in those moments, you will feel a gap growing between you and them. That gap is not a mistake. It is a sign of change. Walking alone does not mean you are weak or isolated in a negative sense. It simply means you are in a phase where your growth is not fully understood by others. You may feel alone at times, and that feeling can be uncomfortable. But discomfort is not always a sign of something wrong. Sometimes it is a sign of progress. When you start moving in a new direction, it is natural that not everyone will come with you immediately. Being alone is better than being surrounded by the wrong influence. Because wrong influence does not always destroy your life instantly, it slowly redirects it. It changes your thinking, your habits, and your decisions without you noticing. And before you realize it, you are no longer moving toward your goals, but away from them. That is why distance becomes necessary. Not as punishment, not as rejection, but as protection. Distance allows you to hear your own thoughts more clearly. It gives you space to understand what you truly want. It helps you rebuild focus without constant distractions or pressure from outside opinions. When you are constantly surrounded by noise, it becomes difficult to think clearly. But when you step back, even temporarily, you begin to see things differently. You begin to understand yourself better. Many successful people in life have experienced periods of walking alone. Not because they wanted to be lonely, but because they needed space to grow. Growth often requires separation from old patterns. And separation can feel uncomfortable at first, but it creates strength, independence, and clarity over time. So if you ever find yourself in a phase where you feel alone, do not immediately assume something is wrong. Instead, ask yourself, is this distance protecting my growth? Because sometimes, life removes certain distractions not to punish you, but to guide you toward your next level. Part 7. Choose your circle carefully. Your circle defines your direction more than you realize. The people you spend time with are not just companions, they are influences. They shape your thinking, your behavior, your standards, and eventually your future. Even if you do not notice it immediately, your circle is quietly guiding your decisions every day. That is why choosing the right people around you is one of the most important decisions in life. If your circle is weak, meaning it lacks ambition, discipline, or focus, your progress will naturally become slow. Not because you are incapable, but because the environment around you does not encourage growth. When people around you are comfortable with mediocrity, your mind slowly starts accepting mediocrity as normal. You stop pushing yourself. You stop challenging your limits. And without realizing it, your potential begins to shrink. On the other hand, if your circle is strong, filled with people who are focused, disciplined, and goal-oriented, your growth becomes faster and more natural. You do not need constant external motivation, because the environment itself pushes you forward. When you see others working hard, improving themselves, and staying disciplined, your mind automatically starts adapting to that level. You begin to think bigger, act better, and aim higher. Your circle is not just about friendship, it is about direction. Every person in your life either pulls you forward or pulls you backward. There is no neutral influence. Even silence from the wrong people can keep you stuck in old patterns. That is why awareness is important. You must observe how you feel after spending time with certain people. Do you feel motivated or drained? Do you feel focused or distracted? Do you feel inspired or stuck? Choose people who challenge you, not in a negative or competitive way, but in a way that pushes you to improve. People who question your limits. People who inspire you to think differently. People who support your growth even when it is uncomfortable. These are the kinds of connections that build a strong future. Avoid people who only keep you comfortable. Comfort feels good in the short term, but it slows down your progress in the long term. If your circle never challenges you, you will never grow beyond your current level. Growth always comes with a little discomfort, because it pushes you beyond what you already know. At the end of the day, your circle is either building your future or holding it back. So choose carefully, because once your circle is set, your direction often follows. Part 8. Build an environment that supports your goals. One of the most important steps in personal growth is not only avoiding negativity, but actively creating positivity around you. Many people focus only on what to remove from their life, bad habits, negative people, distractions. But they forget something even more powerful, building an environment that naturally supports their goals. If you want to succeed in life, you cannot rely only on resistance. You must also rely on creation. You must design your life in a way that makes success easier, not harder. When you design your life intentionally, everything starts to change. Instead of reacting to distractions all day, you start shaping your environment in advance. This means you decide how your day begins, how your time is used, and what kind of energy surrounds you. A powerful life is not built by accident. It is built by design. And design begins with awareness of your surroundings and habits. Creating a routine is one of the strongest ways to build a supportive environment. A routine is not just a schedule, it is a structure that protects your focus. When you have no routine, your mind is open to anything: distraction, laziness, confusion, or even stress. But when you follow a routine, your day becomes more stable. You already know what you are supposed to do, so you waste less energy deciding and more energy doing. Over time, this consistency builds discipline, and discipline builds progress. A focused space is also extremely important. Your physical environment directly affects your mental state. If your space is messy, chaotic, or filled with distractions, your mind will reflect the same chaos. But if your space is clean, organized, and simple, your mind becomes clearer and more focused. Even small changes like reducing noise, organizing your study or work area, or keeping only essential things around you can make a big difference in your ability to concentrate. Along with space and routine, your habits play a powerful role in shaping your environment. Every habit you repeat either supports your dreams or weakens them. If your habits are aligned with your goals, your environment becomes automatically supportive. For example, if you build the habit of learning every day, you create an environment of growth. If you build the habit of wasting time, you create an environment of delay and confusion. Your habits are not separate from your environment, they are a part of it. When you combine all of this, routine, space, and habits, you start designing a life that works for you instead of against you. You stop relying on motivation and start relying on structure. And structure is far more powerful than temporary inspiration. Motivation can disappear, but a well-designed environment continues to support you even when you do not feel motivated. So instead of only trying to avoid what is wrong, start building what is right. Create a life that naturally pushes you forward. Because when your environment supports your goals, success stops feeling like a struggle and starts becoming a natural process. Part 9. Awareness is your greatest power. Most people go through life without realizing how much they are influenced by their environment. They believe they are making fully independent choices. But in reality, many of their decisions are shaped by what surrounds them every day. The people they talk to, the content they consume, and the habits they repeat all quietly guide their thoughts and behavior. Without awareness, a person can be controlled by their environment without even noticing it. But the moment awareness enters your life, everything begins to change. Awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, you start seeing things clearly that were always there but hidden in plain sight. You begin to notice how certain habits are affecting your progress. You begin to recognize which people lift you up and which ones pull you down. You start understanding what is helping your growth and what is slowing it. Once you become aware, you take control. Because control always begins with understanding. When you are unaware, you react automatically to your surroundings. You follow patterns without questioning them. But when you are aware, you begin to pause, reflect, and choose. You no longer live on autopilot. You start living with intention. And intention is what separates a reactive life from a powerful one. Awareness is not something that happens once and stays forever. It is something you must practice every day. You must constantly observe your thoughts, your habits, and your environment. Ask yourself simple questions. Is this helping me grow? Is this moving me closer to my goals? Or is this distracting me from my purpose? These questions may seem small, but they create powerful clarity over time. The first step to change is always awareness. Without awareness, change is impossible because you do not know what needs to change. But with awareness, even small adjustments can create big transformations. You start making better decisions naturally. You start removing what is harmful without being forced. And you start building a life that aligns with your goals. So if you truly want to improve your life, do not start only with action. Start with awareness. Because once you see clearly, you cannot ignore what needs to be changed. And that is where real transformation begins. Part 10. Become the strongest influence in your own life. In life, there are many things you cannot control. You cannot control the behavior of other people. You cannot control every situation you face. And you cannot control every unexpected event that appears in your journey. Life will always have uncertainty, and no matter how carefully you plan, there will always be moments that test you. But even in all of this, there is one thing that always remains in your control: your response. And this is where your real power begins. Your response is what defines you more than your circumstances. Two people can face the same situation, but react completely differently. One may feel defeated and give up, while the other may feel challenged and grow stronger. The difference is not the situation itself, but the response to it. This is why becoming the strongest influence in your own life means learning how to control yourself first, even when you cannot control anything else. Your choices are the foundation of your future. Every decision you make, no matter how small, is shaping the direction of your life. Choosing what to focus on, choosing how to spend your time, and choosing how to react to challenges are all powerful actions. Many people underestimate the power of small choices, but over time, these small decisions build the entire structure of a life. If your choices are careless, your life becomes unstable. But if your choices are intentional, your life becomes strong and focused. Focus is another powerful element of self-control. In a world full of distractions, your ability to focus is your greatest advantage. What you choose to pay attention to determines what grows in your life. If your focus is scattered across many useless things, your progress will also be scattered. But if your focus is directed toward meaningful goals, your growth becomes steady and powerful. Focus is not something you find, it is something you protect. Discipline is the final layer of personal power. Discipline is what keeps you moving even when motivation disappears. There will be days when you feel tired, distracted, or unmotivated, but discipline helps you continue anyway. It is not about feeling good every day. It is about doing what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. Discipline builds consistency, and consistency builds results. Without discipline, even the strongest goals remain unfinished ideas. When you combine control over your choices, focus, and discipline, you begin to take your power back from external influences. You stop reacting to everything around you and start shaping your own direction. You become less dependent on circumstances and more dependent on your own actions. This is what it means to become the strongest influence in your own life, not controlling everything outside, but mastering everything within. At this stage, life begins to feel different. Instead of being pushed around by external forces, you start guiding yourself with clarity. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstances and start becoming the creator of your path. And that is true strength. Not controlling the world, but controlling yourself in a world you cannot fully control. Part 11. Your surroundings decide your standards. Your standards in life are not created by motivation alone. Motivation can inspire you for a short time, but it does not define what you consistently accept in your life. Instead, your standards are shaped by something much deeper and more constant: your surroundings. What you see every day, what you experience repeatedly, and what you are exposed to regularly all play a major role in deciding what feels normal to you. If you are surrounded by people who accept average, over time you will also begin to accept average without realizing it. When everyone around you is satisfied with doing the minimum, your mind slowly adjusts to that level. You stop feeling the need to push yourself further. You stop questioning whether you can do more. And gradually, what once felt like not enough starts feeling good enough. This is how standards slowly decline, not through one big decision, but through repeated exposure to mediocrity. On the other hand, if you are surrounded by people who demand excellence, your mindset naturally begins to rise. When you see others working hard, setting high goals, and refusing to settle for less, your mind starts adapting to that environment. You begin to think differently. You begin to expect more from yourself. You begin to feel uncomfortable with average effort. Without force or pressure, your standards start to elevate simply because of what you are exposed to daily. This is why your environment is so powerful. It silently defines what you believe is acceptable. You do not rise to your goals automatically. Instead, you often fall or rise to your standards. And your standards are not built in isolation. They are built through repetition and influence. If your environment constantly shows you low effort, your standards drop. If your environment constantly shows you discipline and ambition, your standards rise. Many people struggle in life not because they lack ability, but because their environment has trained them to accept less. They aim high in words but live low in action because their daily surroundings do not support higher expectations. Over time, their comfort zone becomes their limit, and they stop pushing beyond it. That is why it is important to reflect honestly on your surroundings. Ask yourself a powerful question. What has my environment taught me to accept? This question can reveal a lot about your current life. It can show you whether your surroundings are helping you grow or quietly holding you back. Once you understand this, you gain the ability to change it. Because when you change your environment, you change your standards. And when you change your standards, you change your entire future. Part 12. Comfort zones are created by surroundings. Most people believe that they are stuck in their comfort zone because they lack courage or motivation. But the deeper truth is that comfort zones are not only created by the mind, they are created by the environment around you. The people you spend time with, the routines you follow, and the conversations you repeat every day all quietly build a space where comfort feels normal and change feels unnecessary. When everything around you stays the same, your mind naturally stops seeking growth. Think about it carefully. If you wake up every day and see the same people doing the same activities, talking about the same topics, and living the same lifestyle, your brain starts to accept that as normal life. There is no pressure to change, no challenge to improve, and no reason to think beyond what already exists. Over time, this environment slowly builds a mental boundary around you. That boundary is your comfort zone. And the strongest part is, you may not even realize you are inside it. A comfort zone is not always obvious. It does not feel like a trap at first. In fact, it often feels safe, familiar, and peaceful. But the problem is that comfort without growth slowly turns into limitation. When there is no challenge, there is no development. When there is no pressure, there is no progress. You begin to repeat the same patterns again and again. Not because you want to stay stuck, but because your environment does not encourage anything different. This is why your surroundings play such a powerful role in your life. They can quietly trap you in a cycle where everything feels easy but nothing changes. Same people, same routine, same conversations. Over time, this repetition becomes your identity. You stop imagining new possibilities because your environment does not show you any. You stop taking risks because nothing around you demands change. But growth always begins when you step out of this cycle. When you change your space, even slightly, your mindset begins to shift. New environments bring new thoughts. New people bring new perspectives. New routines bring new energy. Suddenly, you start noticing opportunities you never saw before. You begin to think differently, act differently, and expect more from yourself. Stepping out of your comfort zone is not just about courage. It is about environment change. When you change what surrounds you, you automatically change what influences you. And when your influence changes, your life direction changes as well. Real growth does not happen inside the same environment that created your limitations. It happens when you step into something unfamiliar and allow yourself to expand beyond what feels comfortable. So remember this simple truth. Comfort zones are not just mental. They are environmental. And when you change your environment, you break the invisible walls that keep you small. That is where real transformation begins. Part 13. You either control your surroundings or they control you. This is the final truth that many people realize too late in life. You are always in one of two positions. Either you are consciously shaping your environment, or your environment is shaping you without your awareness. There is no middle ground. Every day, every decision, and every habit is slowly pushing you toward one of these two directions. There are only two types of people in this world. The first type are those who design their environment. They are intentional about where they spend their time, who they interact with, and what they allow into their mind. They understand that their surroundings are not random, they are powerful. So they carefully build an environment that supports their growth, protects their focus, and strengthens their mindset. The second type are those who are shaped by their environment. They do not actively choose their surroundings. Instead, they accept whatever is around them. They follow whatever habits are common, spend time with whoever is available, and consume whatever is easily accessible. Over time, they begin to reflect their environment without even realizing it. Their thoughts, behaviors, and decisions slowly align with what surrounds them. If you do not choose your surroundings carefully, they will be chosen for you. And when that happens, the environment you end up in may not support your future. It may keep you distracted instead of focused, comfortable instead of disciplined, and stagnant instead of growing. This is why awareness and intentionality are so important. You cannot afford to be passive about your environment. Taking control does not mean controlling everything around you. It means making conscious decisions about what stays in your life and what does not. It means removing what weakens your mindset, negative influences, distractions, and habits that pull you backward. And it means adding what strengthens you, positive influences, focused routines, and environments that encourage growth. Because in the end, your environment is not just something around you. It becomes a part of you. It shapes your thoughts, your identity, and your future. And when you understand this truth deeply, you realize something powerful. If you want to change your life, you must first take control of what is influencing your life every day. Final message: be careful of your surroundings, because they are quietly shaping your thoughts, your habits, your actions, and ultimately your future, in ways you may not even notice in the present moment. Every environment you stay in, every person you talk to, and every daily routine you follow is slowly influencing who you are becoming. That is why awareness is so important in life. If you truly want to grow, you must start paying attention to what is around you and what is affecting your mindset every single day. This is a message from English Achieve, not just to improve your English, but to help you understand life in a deeper way. Start small. You don't need to change everything at once. Just change one thing today. One habit. One distraction. One negative influence. Small changes, when repeated consistently, create powerful transformation over time. Because your life will not change by chance, it will change by choice. And every choice you make today is quietly building the person you will become tomorrow. So choose carefully, stay aware, and protect your direction, because your future is being shaped right now.